politics by Bean Thinking, and she has 1.07k subscribers, which just yeah, so she's a very small YouTube channel. 1.07k. Yeah. That's like that's 1,070 subscribers. She's small. Maybe one day I could invite her on the show. I don't know, maybe she might be willing to talk more about this, and because I went into this too, so let's hear what she has to say.
It is not an exaggeration to say that here in the US, we are slipping into fascist politics, and you don't have to take my word for it. Hey, I'm Asante, and here's what I've been thinking. Lest you think I'm exaggerating, I want to actually give a definition of fascism. Merriam-Webster defines fascism as a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition.
And as we all know, like, one of my my biggest things about my biggest comparison is usually Nazi Germany. I usually default to Nazi Germany because it is the most intense and most accurate, the easiest comparison to draw. Just because I know quite a bit about the Nazi rise to power. I mean, I don't know everything, but I do know enough to know that the Nazis rose to power similar to what we're dealing with here in America. Violent voter suppression at the state level and at the civil level. Demonizing rhetoric, vilifying marginalized communities on the campaign trail, such as what we listened to in his "Why Are We Anti-Semitic" speech, or in Hitler's "Why Are We Anti-Semitic" speech. We noticed that there was a lot of populist rhetoric concerning jobs and the economy. There was also the mythologized past of the nation, and there was also something else in terms of like the demonizing rhetoric of the Jewish population, saying that they were the leeches sucking off the blood of the nation. Sound familiar? What sounds familiar? What sounds familiar? Michaela, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know. That's a good question. The fact that I have to point that out to you makes me want to do something along the lines of... But just because I'm a nice person and I want to make you feel welcome here, I am going to say something along the lines of, well, Trump said something along the lines of how immigrants are poisoning the blood of the nation. So, yeah, there you go. Don't know what else to tell you, like Trump and his Goonies.
I do not believe in the family structure.
They're going to make absolutely certain that this country falls, and it falls hard. But fascism can't really sustain itself. I mean, Nazi Germany fell when Hitler shot himself. Like, when Nazi Germany fell, it was hard. It sounded a little bit something like this. And maybe a little bit something like this. I don't know. But what you do know is Hitler was a total... Yeah, so...
That's a general
dictionary. I'm getting a little too happy with those sound bites. I really should stop. I'm sorry.
For a living. So this is an excellent read by Jason Stanley, How Fascism Works. Quick read, very readable,
highly
recommend.
I support the gay matriarch.
I'll just read you his overview from the introduction. And by the way, this is from 2018, so before our current election season. Fascist politics includes many distinct strategies: the mythic past, propaganda, anti-intellectualism, unreality, hierarchy, victimhood, law and order, sexual anxiety, appeals to the heartland, and a dismantling of public welfare and unity. Though a defense of certain elements is legitimate and sometimes warranted, there are times in history when they come together in one party or political movement. These are dangerous moments. In the United States today, Republican politicians employ these strategies with more and more frequency. Their increasing tendency to engage in this politics should give honest conservatives pause. And I'll make the point that I'm not mapping being liberal.
And one of the things we don't realize is the 2008 financial crisis has a lot to do with this. A lot. What do I mean by this? One of the ways in which Nazi Germany was able to gain so much fucking power is because of the fact that the nation was in an actual legitimate decline that the fucking people in power were pointing to. I mean, a loaf of bread was fucking how much? I think it was like 160 Deutsche Marks. It was horrible. $160, and I fucked up the math that day. I said it was like 300 Deutsche Mark, 300 USD at the time, but it was actually more like 80. It would have been the equivalent of 80 USD. But still, $80 fucking dollars for a loaf of bread. That shit cost me fucking $3. Still expensive, but it's not no fucking $80. So it's understandable why Germany was looking for answers. They wanted solutions. It just turned out that the solution was the final solution, and it fucked over a lot of people. But they wanted solutions, and they fell for the fascist rhetoric of Adolf Hitler, and he made absolutely sure it wasn't good.
Or conservative neatly onto this spectrum. It doesn't map neatly onto this spectrum. There is a healthy, honest version of conservatism that I do think we need in society. I'll be going more in depth into that in a future video. A healthy conservatism, I think, is one that sees the value in maintaining some larger social structures, that knows that we do need cohesion and social stability, that also sees the value in having moral foundations of a culture and having a safe environment. There's a conservatism that sees those things as just as important as individual freedom. And in fact, I think that those things, when done well, support individual freedom. A productive conservative approach would say, how can we have individual rights and freedoms while also not destroying the culture of society, while also conserving a sense of social cohesion? What we don't want is a conservatism that throws out your individual rights altogether.
Conservatism, in my opinion, in and of itself, is inherently reactionary. Like conservatism, I mean, I guess I see where she's saying with it, but it's like conservatism emphasizes things like religious freedom, and one of those things that conservatism emphasizes in regards to religious freedom is the right to discriminate, which is one of the reasons why conservatism is basically just diet fascist. Like, there is no way to separate hatred from conservatism. It's just part of their ideology. That is just, I felt like they've, every step of the term, even every step of the way, even when conservatives were tamer, like the 10 years ago when we were dealing with Obama's presidency, even when conservatives were more civil and less reactionary pigs like they are now, they still fought against equality at every step of the way. There is absolutely no way to have conservatism without fighting against the rights of people who have previously been. It's one of the reasons why. Like, I can't, like, being that I'm myself am trans, my partner's trans, I have 2 black nephews and a black niece. My brother and his sister-in-law are Muslim. Like, we have a really diverse family here, and I cannot, I don't know. I just can't play nice with conservatives. I just can't. I mean, I'll have a discussion with them, but the one thing I refuse to have with them is a debate about human rights. We do not debate human rights on this channel. If I need to convince you that, like, a 10-year-old rape victim shouldn't be allowed to have an abortion, then I can't help you. Yeah. There's a duh position on that, and if you say that abortion should be prohibited in all cases, including rape and incest, and think that children are no exception, I can't help you there. You're just objectively a monster, and there is no talking to you, and you just need to be ostracized and forced into the shadows of society where you should never be allowed to show your face ever again. Like, that, unironically, how I feel, and it's like, I don't know, but I'm going on a soapbox about anti-conservatism. Let's let her finish.
It's for you. Not what we want. Undesirable. The issue with the current iteration of the Republican Party is that they are putting forward a platform that would dismantle the federal protections against private and state domination, and would put in a system that allows for even more concentration of power into the hands of a few. Against private and state domination, and would put in a system that allows for even more concentration of power into the hands of a few. Not to mention that the Supreme...
Is she suggesting that the state is going to end up losing their authority, and it's going to go more and more to Trump? If that's what she's saying, that is utterly fucking terrifying. Like, I do not want to live in a state where my rights are solely dictated by the federal government. That is... Oh no.
Supreme Court basically just made the president into a king by allowing immunity for any actions that are done on the job. Yeah, break the law all you want, just make sure you do it on company time. We have one of the vice presidential candidates listening to thinkers that actually support monarchy. The founders of this country, flawed though they were, knew that monarchy was not compatible with liberty and justice for all. The idea...
Oh, and I would argue, we keep thinking, like, we keep talking about how the American Revolution was about religious freedom, and I said this too. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I think it was more an opposition to monarchy. They wanted something more democratic, where your leaders were held accountable, because only in a system like that could like religious freedom reign. Now, obviously, that was like their intention, but it wasn't like to liberate anybody in general. It wasn't freedom. It was just they wanted a different government structure. If it was really about liberation and freedom, then slaves. There had been no slaves. Enough said. There'd be no bans on gay marriage. Like, if you have a uterus, you would have not been forced to, you would not have been lowered to second-class citizenship, minimized to that of a mere baby factory. So we basically need to refound this country. We need to, like, factory reset, build from the ground up. Just, like, take the Constitution, stick it in a shredder right from scratch.
By one man and not ruled by...
We, the people of the United States of America, we no take bullshit. You want to act like a dick? Get the fuck out. All are welcome, just don't act like a dick. There you go. The new U.S. Constitution, do we approve?
The rule of law is un-American. Again, that was the entire founding premise of this country, is that we're not doing kings no more. Sorry, boo. George Washington, our mythic hero, stepped down from office voluntarily and was like, I'm not going to be a king. I meant that, okay? We don't do kings. So it's worth mapping out what we've progressed from, what is on that autocracy end of the spectrum. Here we have systems that explicitly create and enforce inequality. At the extreme end, we have complete dictatorship, power totally concentrated in the hands of one man. Let's be real. Then you have kings and monarchy, where power is concentrated within one family. Fascism would be in this zone, and I'm putting it here because there is often a dictatorial leader within fascism, but fascism is really the politics of us against them. There's a master race that is the nation, the true Germans, the true Americans. They're the master race, and they want to have power and control over the structure of society. That social order has a strict gender and racial hierarchy, where the race at the bottom is dehumanized and sometimes eliminated altogether. Then we have slavery. It's not a total control of society, but it is emphasizing the dehumanization of whatever.
Basically, in the fascist gender hierarchy, cis men, cis women, literally everybody else.
Race is enslaved. And then you have caste systems where, unlike slavery and fascism, you might not be explicitly dehumanizing the bottom rung of people, but there is a set social hierarchy where some people are explicitly on the top and some people are explicitly on the bottom. All of these systems are about creating and perpetuating inequality. They're systems where people do have total control over other people and where some people's humanity is explicitly valued more than other people's humanity. Now, the scariest thing about this present political moment in the US is that the rhetoric of the Republican Party is in this zone right now. Talking about immigrants as vermin, that is the dehumanizing language of fascism. Talking about being a dictator on day one, I mean, that's taking us to even before where the founders were, right? Like, the founders were like somewhere in here. They moved from the monarch to around here, and they called themselves sort of making progress, which, sure, but to take us back even further into autocracy than that is pretty wild. One of the most dangerous things happening now is the antagonizing of other Americans, fellow citizens. As Stanley says, the most telling symptom of fascist politics is division. It aims to separate a population into an us and a them. When I read this, it gave me much more understanding of what's going on right now. Listen to this. Fascist politicians justify their ideas by breaking down a common sense of history and creating a mythic past to support their vision for the present. They rewrite the population's shared understanding of reality by twisting the language of ideals through propaganda and promoting anti-intellectualism, attacking universities and educational systems that might challenge their ideas. Eventually, with these techniques, fascist politics creates a state of unreality where conspiracy theories and fake news replace reasoned debate. As a common understanding of reality crumbles, fascist politics makes room for dangerous and false beliefs to take root. First, fascist ideology seeks to naturalize group difference, thereby giving an appearance of natural scientific support for a hierarchy of human worth.
Yep. So one of the things in which they try to support that is through things like race realism and gender critical ideology. Basically, with race realism, there is actual like skull shape differences, or like IQ. Like, black people have lower IQ, but like black men have bigger dicks, and like Asians are really good at math and they have a high IQ. It's a really convenient place it's really convenient to be able to set your stuff like that so that you can say that white people are between Asians and black people, because then you could say something along the lines of, well, I'm not racist. Asians are a totally other race, and I think they're superior to white people. Obviously, we know that that's full of shit, and we know that that's clown shit, and we know that it makes you look like a total and complete utter clown. Sorry, I said that word multiple times. I felt like it was only appropriate to have the sound effect. Let's hear that one more time. There we go. I feel satisfied. But it's like you can't, like, how the fuck are you, and then also in the case of, like, gender, they do the same thing. There's only man and woman, and anybody who deviates from that is the other. So transgender women, because they don't acknowledge cisgender woman, they just acknowledge woman. And so transgender woman is really just the... And let's face it, when they think trans people as predators, they really think of trans women. So, this bitch. They don't think of trans men. You know why? Because if we went back to a Ben Shapiro video, you would have seen a trans man arguing for his own reproductive freedom, and you would have not guessed that that guy was trans. You would never guess that that guy had a hatch net between his crotch. You would have never fucking guessed. That guy was covered in facial hair. His arms were hairy. Just everything. Like, you would have never known. You would have never known. But the problem is testosterone is irreversible, and so it's so much easier to attack trans women. And the fight against puberty blockers is to make absolutely sure that it remains easy to identify trans women. Because if we go through our puberty, remember, testosterone is irreversible. And so, yeah, without puberty blockers, testosterone goes through. We develop our broad shoulders. We develop our facial hair. Our voice deepens, kind of similar to what you're hearing now. And it becomes a lot easier. It's not as simple for us to simply be invisible that they want us to fucking be. By invisible, they mean they want us to detransition. They don't want us to look like the gender we identify as. You know what I mean? So... It's not about science. It's about discrimination and making absolutely sure there's one person on top and another person subservient to the person above them.
When social rankings and divisions solidify, fear fills in for understanding between groups. Any progress for a minority group stokes feelings of victimhood among the dominant population. Law and order politics has mass appeal, casting us as lawful citizens, and them, by contrast, as lawless criminals whose behavior poses an existential threat to the manhood of the nation. Sexual anxiety is also typical of fascist politics, as the patriarchal hierarchy is threatened by growing gender equity.
Exactly. Like if you can't force people, if you can't force people to have your fucking kid anymore, then you think society is going to collapse. You think not getting laid is the end of the world. I'll tell you what, I didn't lose my virginity till I was 24 fucking years old. Did I lose it out of desperation? Yeah. You know where I went? Grindr. Slept with someone twice my age. Like, yeah, they were old enough to be my fucking mother. Not my mother, my father. Yeah. That was 6 years ago. Not proud of it. But you can do it. It's really easy. You don't have to fall to fascism. You really want to lose your virginity that bad. You know what I mean? It's not that difficult. Like, there's plenty of people who want to fuck you.
Okay, don't say we're exaggerating when we say this is fascism. Like, it's pretty obvious where this is going at this point. It's not good. It's not pretty. Even if your vote is against this more than it is for the other team, it's worth it to vote against this, okay? Okay, so we don't want to go backwards. This has been the direction of progress over time. And it's gone in this direction not because rights were granted out of benevolence to people, but because different classes and groups organized and agitated and fought and defended their rights over time. There are always going to be people who want to concentrate power in their own hands, so there always needs to be this push for progress and more equality. So then what should we be agitating for? Let's get to the part of the spectrum where we're actually creating equality.
Oh, and that's our segue into why your freedom depends on democracy. So there you have it. Bean thinking, yes, Trumpism is fascist politics. Really good channel. She's only got 1,000 followers. That's sad. She needs more. I'm gonna say that to her. Only 1K followers. You need more. Great content. But yeah, yeah, so I would say go subscribe to her. She's really good. And with that said, I think I'm gonna close off this here segment. So if you liked what you seen, hit the like button, leave a comment, really helps. And feel free to share this stream with people whom you feel like might be a little receptive to the ideas of like understanding fascism, socialism, stuff like that. Like, share the message with them and join my Discord. Support me on Patreon. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch. Think we're gonna have a nice discussion. I definitely plug my Discord a lot because it is where you'll get like the updates to my show when I'm going live, etc., etc. So with that, thank you for watching.